You've probably heard the name Ponzi before, right? Well, there was a time when Charles Ponzi was seen as this absolute financial genius. I mean, people were literally lining up down the street begging him to take their money. But his entire empire, this whole incredible thing, was built on a lie. A lie so famous that even a century later, the scam he perfected still bears his name. So let's get into it and break down exactly how he pulled it off.
So think about this for a second. How could a man that his own publicist called a financial idiot fool thousands of people and rake in millions? That's really the heart of this whole crazy story. This quote, it comes from the guy who eventually blew the whistle on him, and it's kind of the key to understanding the whole shebang.
All right, so to really get a grip on the scheme, we first have to understand the man. His entire life was basically driven by this really powerful and frankly dangerous cocktail of resentment and ambition.
See, Ponzi's family had once been rich, but they'd lost it all, and he never, ever got over it. He grew up with this giant chip on his shoulder, this deep-seated belief that he was owed a life of luxury. That feeling, that hard work was for other people, that's going to define pretty much every move he makes.
So, his early years in America, yeah, they were a total mess. Nothing like the success story he'd pictured. It was just this cycle of failures, petty crimes, and, yep, prison. He was cheating people, forging checks, smuggling, and he just kept getting caught. It wasn't until he married his wife, Rose, that he got truly desperate to give her the world. And that desperation? Well, it set the stage for everything that came next.
After a whole string of failed businesses, Ponzi was at rock bottom, for real. And then, one day in 1919, a completely random, ordinary letter shows up from Spain. And inside that letter was the idea he believed was going to be his golden goose.
The letter had one of these in it, an international reply coupon, or an IRC. It was just a simple little thing for international mail, so someone could prepay for the postage on a letter back to them from another country. To almost anyone else, it was basically junk. But to Ponzi, it was a light bulb moment.
Now, what's so fascinating is that Ponzi's idea was actually based on a completely legitimate financial strategy. Arbitrage. It's a tactic that's been used forever. He just realized that because of how messed up currency values were after the war, an IRC wasn't worth the same amount of money everywhere.
And on paper, his plan was honestly kind of brilliant. He could buy these IRCs for cheap in a place like Italy, where the currency was really weak, and then bring them to the US and redeem them for stamps that were worth way more. He'd sell the stamps, make a tiny profit, and then just do it millions and millions of times. It sounded totally legal, totally plausible. It sounded foolproof.
But, and this is a huge but, reality came crashing in. The profits were tiny, microscopic, so small that the cost of just shipping the coupons would have completely wiped them out. And even worse, there just weren't enough IRCs in circulation on the entire planet to make this a real business. The plan was a total fantasy.
So here we are at the turning point. This is crucial. When the legitimate business turned out to be impossible, Ponzi made a choice. He decided that if he couldn't actually run the business, he could sell the idea of the business, and that right there is when the lie began.
And you know what? He'd actually seen this scam before, working for a shady banker up in Montreal. It's a beautifully simple fraud. You pay your early investors using the money you get from new investors. It makes it look like you've got this amazing, profitable business, and as long as new money keeps pouring in, the illusion holds together. So here's how it looked in the real world. Ponzi promised people an absolutely mind-blowing 50% return on their money in just 45 days. He claimed it was all coming from his secret IRC trading strategy. But the reality, of course, was he was just shuffling cash around. Investor B's money went straight into Investor A's pocket, and all along the way, Ponzi was taking a massive cut for himself.
So who fell for this? Not the experts. Nope. Banks and serious investors, they all knew it was way too good to be true. Ponzi's real genius was in targeting the general public. Just ordinary people whose dreams of getting rich were way bigger than their financial common sense. He wasn't just selling profits, he was selling hope to people who felt like they'd been left behind.
And the result was absolutely insane. At his peak in 1920, Ponzi was taking in $250,000 a day in 1920 money. That's just an incredible number. Word of mouth was so powerful that there were literally lines of people waiting outside his office, stretching for blocks. And with all that cash, Ponzi was finally living the life he always felt he was supposed to have. The giant mansion, the fancy cars, the custom suits, diamond pins, he had it all. The Boston Post even ran a story calling him a financial genius, which, of course, just made him seem even more legitimate and brought in even more money.
But you know, an empire that's built on nothing but lies, it just can't last. By the summer of 1920, less than 6 months after he really got going, the first serious cracks started to appear. And it was the Boston Post, the same newspaper that had praised him, that started digging around.
And this right here, this is the moment the whole thing just completely unraveled. An analyst just did the basic math. To generate the kinds of profits Ponzi was paying out, his company would have needed to be trading 160 million IRCs. The little problem with that? There were only about 27,000 of them in circulation in the entire world. It was mathematically impossible.
But the real nail in the coffin came from inside his own house. His publicist, William McMasters, yep, the same guy who called him a financial idiot, figured out pretty quickly his new boss was a total fraud. He started collecting evidence, took it straight to the Boston Post, and wrote the expose that brought the entire house of cards crashing down.
And the collapse was immediate. It was devastating. Banks failed. Tens of thousands of regular people lost their entire life savings. And Charles Ponzi? He found himself right back where he started, with nothing.
His final years are just a pathetic echo of his early life. He did some prison time, but the second he got out, he tried another scam, this time selling worthless swampland in Florida. Of course, he got caught again, did more time, and was eventually deported. His wife divorced him. He died completely broke in a charity hospital. Just a classic tale of rags to riches and right back to rags again.
So Ponzi himself is long gone, but his scheme is immortal. It just preys on this timeless human weakness, the desire to get rich quick. And that leaves us with this really fascinating question, doesn't it? We have known exactly how this trick works for over a century now, so why on earth do we keep falling for it?